There were posters all over town, and everyone had wondered what was happening this year on Fern Island. Fern Island was something of a tourist attraction in Hamburg. It was a foggy island that sat in the middle of Lake Crawford, connected to the mainland by a wooden bridge that was built in the 1800s and had been maintained ever since. The island was covered in a light mist year-round, becoming thicker in the colder months, and it was often the destination for ghost tours or haunted houses during the fall. Not a year went by that someone didn't trot out the fact that it was a place they had taken from the Sarota Indians, and that the spirits of many who died there died before their time and were likely to linger. "So what is it this year?" Jazzy asked as Mary brought one of the flyers in close. Her eyesight was terrible, even with the glasses, and in order to read much, she usually had to put it right under her nose. "Come see the Barkers' Haunted Carnival. Come to Fern Island the week of Halloween. Sounds like there's some sort of horror carnival coming on Monday night." Reggie grabbed one of them too, reading over the events. Graveyard maze, haunted house, carnival rides, prize alley, and haunted hayride. Sounds like a blast. "Admission's pretty reasonable too," Jazzy said, reading over his shoulder. "We should definitely go." "It'll be packed on opening night," Mark said, leaning over Reggie's other shoulder. "Maybe we should hit it in the middle of the week." "No way," Jazzy said. "We have to hit it before everyone ruins it for us. It starts at sunset. Does anyone have to work on Monday?" "Nope," Mark said. "Funland's closed for the season, and I'm going to start looking for something else." "Same," said Reggie, as he moved up the sidewalk. Mark punched him in the shoulder playfully. "Like you can't just go work for your dad anyway." Reggie blew him off dismissively. "Why would I want to do that? He'd probably shortchange me." "I've got to study for my chem midterm," Mary started, but Jazzy wrapped an arm around her conspiratorially and shut her up. "You can study any old night, Mary. Come on, come with us." Mary looked away, clearly not wanting to skip her studying, but Jazzy put the final nail in the coffin for her productivity. "You come with us to opening night, and we'll go afterwards to that all-night boba place you like so much." "Okay," she said, smiling. "You promise? You always say you will, but you always—" "I promise," Jazzy said. "Trust me, we're going to have a great time." Jasmine, or Jazzy, Mary, Mark, and Reggie had been friends since middle school. Jazzy and Reggie lived on the same street, and had known each other longer than that, and Jazzy had met Mary in her 6th grade math class when she couldn't seem to pass Mr. Sanders' tests. Reggie and Mark had met at football tryouts, and when the two groups had come together, they had proven to be a force to be reckoned with. They had always paired together for projects and hung out almost constantly during their off time. When Reggie had asked Jazzy to be his girlfriend in 11th grade, his infatuation had really only been a surprise to him. They had been afraid it would change the dynamic of the friend group, but nothing really seemed to change. They still spent all their time together, even when Mary got accepted to college and none of them bothered to apply. And Halloween had always been a big hangout time for them, whether it was trick-or-treating well into high school years, watching scary movies on someone's couch. They always came together for the night so they could experience it together. They had been to the ghost tour on Fern Island the year before, and the haunted hayride the year before that, and the island festivities were almost an annual tradition by this point. As Jazzy read over the flyer again, she knew that this year's event would be the best yet. She could just feel it. "I'm not sure how they intend to have a whole carnival there by Monday," Reggie said, putting an arm around Jazzy as they walked. "I haven't seen anyone setting anything up there, and corn mazes don't just spring up over—" But he tapered off as he saw a small crowd gathering up ahead. "What's that up ahead?" Mark said, moving around them as he went to see. "Almost like a crowd waiting for a parade," Mary commented. And when Mark told them to come see this, they all moved up to the edge of the crowd. They were craning over each other's heads, and the people in front were mumbling softly at whatever was moving past. Jazzy hopped up on a concrete planter, and Reggie, a whole head taller, lifted onto his toes to see. Mark had climbed onto a nearby bench, and Mary tried to get every inch of her 5'0" frame as she asked what they were seeing. Jazzy didn't really have any words for what she was seeing, but if this was the fellow running the haunted carnival, then it was certainly boding well. Cars on Main Street had gotten out of the way as a large black carriage, driven by 6 small black horses, had pulled its way silently up the street with reserved steps. It was like a funeral wagon and a gypsy caravan all in one. The whole side was covered in strange symbols and pictures, the curtains drawn on the inside, and the whole thing seeming to drink in the sunlight as it rolled through town. The driver, however, was the real draw. The man was tall and thin. His suit and tail, not to mention his black top hat, made Jazzy think of a mortician. In contrast to his clothes, the man's face was split into a wide grin, and his booming voice seemed to push the crowd back a step as he spoke. He was tossing things into the crowd, and when Reggie picked one out of the air, Jazzy saw it was a metal coin with a skull on the other side. "Come one, come all, to the haunted carnival. Those presenting coins will receive their tickets at half price. The carnival welcomes all who are looking for a haunted experience like no other. So be there opening night, and don't miss the thrills, the chills, and the screams." He repeated it again and again as he rode through the town, and as the crowd followed him, Jazzy and her friends fell in with them. The wheels of the carriage should not have fit between the handrails of the old bridge so easily, but they did. As the wagon rolled towards Fern Island, dark clouds began to build up over it, and the fog became thicker as it touched the strange wagon. It was lost amidst it as it rolled towards the island, and no one seemed to want to follow it. Jazzy had taken a step after it, mesmerized by its promises of thrills and chills, but stopped before she could step into the fog. Seeing it before it was ready would ruin the surprise, and she wanted the full effect when she returned opening night, because she would return. Jazzy would have gone back, even if she had to crawl. "We're going Monday night," she half whispered to her friends as they stood behind her. "I wouldn't miss this for the world." Jazzy looked herself over in the mirror, taking it all in as she turned this way and that. The outfit made her think of a witch, but a stylish witch, and the boots she had bought for tonight helped pull it all together. Reggie would love it, but he loved most everything she wore. Reggie was easy. He liked her, and she liked him, and that was all that mattered. It made a relationship easy. She checked her watch and was aghast to discover that it was nearly 6. She would have to hurry to get ready before sundown, and she grabbed her purse as she made her way downstairs to wait for Reggie. "Where are you heading off to?" her mother asked, as she tried to slip out the door without being noticed. "Just heading to the carnival on Fern Island. It looks wild this year." Jazzy gritted her teeth, expecting a fight. "And have you applied for any colleges yet? Found a job? Gotten your grades up?" Her mother was standing in the door of the kitchen now, glaring at her as she mixed up a bowl of something that would likely become cookies. "I'm working on the last one, but as for the other 2, it's my senior year, Mom. I'm trying to enjoy my last year of freedom before adulthood." Her mother rolled her eyes. "You better enjoy it while it lasts then, because once it's gone, Jazzy. I do wish you would take it a little more seriously. You can't be a child forever." Jazzy worried at her lip, opening the door as her mother went back into the kitchen. "I can sure as hell try," she whispered, fixing her face as she noticed Reggie was waiting for her. He had pulled his old Datsun up onto the curb a little, and as he got out to get the door for her, she saw that Mark and Mary were waiting in the back seat already. The last to arrive, it would seem, she said, climbing in. You okay? Mark asked as Reggie got back in. Fighting with your mom again? Jazzy nodded. Yeah, she thinks I need to take my senior year a little more seriously. My dad, too, Reggie said with a sigh as he took off. He's pissed I haven't started applying for colleges yet. I told him I didn't think I could leave this town just yet. It doesn't feel like it's the right time. Aw, Mark said, his voice full of sarcasm. You mean I might actually get to be a starting running back at Eastmont? Reggie blew out a raspberry. Only if I take a year off, but you better keep my spot warm for me. They bantered as they went, Jazzy still thinking about what her mother had said, but all thoughts of the future were pushed aside as they got to the parking lot and saw Fern Island. Huh, the spirits truly did it all in a weekend, Mark said with a laugh as they came through the fog. They were far from the first ones here. There were already about a dozen people waiting at the head of the bridge when the group arrived, and Jazzy was surprised to see that no one had arrived in costumes of any sort. There were always a few people who insisted on dressing up. Mark had even floated the idea of a group costume, but something had seemed wrong about the idea. This didn't feel like the kind of thing you dressed up for, though she couldn't say why. It felt disrespectful somehow, but that was as close as she could come to explaining it. The fog had been thicker that day than any of them had ever seen it. It clung around Fern Island like a curtain, just waiting to rise on a feature presentation. The dark clouds were gone now, but as the sky darkened, it would have been hard to tell. More people lined up behind them, and it appeared that most of the town had turned out for the carnival. As the sun set, the fog parted, the lights came up, and the assembled were treated to a scene of enchantment. A huge Gothic manor loomed up before them, something the Addams family would have been happy to call home. From the black, peeling siding to the bent weather vane on top, the house oozed creepy. There was a graveyard beside it, a sea of headstones that stretched off into the woods around the house, and beside the manor stood a gaudy neon fair in full swing. The rides ran, the people screamed, and you could hear the sounds of games being played and prizes being won from here. The icing on the cake was a hayfield, complete with tractor, with scarecrows dotting the lush landscape. And at the entrance, poised like a gargoyle, was the barker. Step right up, ladies and gentlemen. Step up and experience terror like never before. Jazzy and her friends paid their way, Reggie turning in his coin from the day before, and for a moment they just stood there, trying to decide what to do first. Reggie and I really want to go on the hayride, Jazzy cooed, grabbing his arm and nodding at him. I was hoping to have a look at the fair, Mark said. Maybe win some prizes at the midway. The haunted house looks fun, Mary said, and I kind of want to check out the graveyard too. Well, Jazzy said, what if we all meet at the fair in, say, a half an hour? Then we can double back and do some of the other stuff too. They all liked the sound of that, and so they opted for a strategy that had doomed groups for generations. They decided to split the party. You're still here. Thanks for stopping by. Dr. Plague here. Always a pleasure to see all my new and old viewers coming by for another one of my spooky tales. If you'd like to support the show, you can always take part in one of our channel offers through Fume or Aura, or you can just click on another video when they come up. I'd really appreciate it. For our newer viewers, we also have lots of playlists and other things if you'd like to get caught up. I know some of my series have been going on for quite a while. If you'd like to get my latest book, there's a link down below that'll take you to my Amazon page. Towesey Homestead just came out, so if that's something you'd like to get your hands on, go ahead and have a look down there. If you'd like a signed copy, you can go ahead and email me from my email address on the site, and I'll get with you about shipping information and ship you a signed copy. If you'd like to support the channel in a more monetary fashion, we also have membership through YouTube, and we've got a Patreon that you can get the information for in the description. We have lots of tiers and everything to suit your needs. Patrons that support on the $10 tier, that's our Ghostly Reader tier, get a book anytime I write one, signed and on their doorstep. As you may have noticed, there's a list of patrons and members on the screen, and I'd like to personally thank every one of them for taking a hand in the future of this channel. Well, that's enough for tonight. Dr. Plague, signing off. Have a wonderful evening.